What's up, guys? It's Wraith. I am back with another JOYTOY Warhammer 40k review for you. This time it's going to be on Abaddon the Despoiler, which was announced a couple of months ago, and I've been waiting with anticipation ever since then to get an updated version of Abaddon. We have the Horus Heresy version of Abaddon, which I did a review. You can see the video here on Horus, as well as Drach'nyen Terminators. So you guys can take a look and see if you want as well on that one. But this one I am super excited about. We're going to jump over to the review stand with him. We're going to compare him to a whole bunch of other figures that I have, as well as my custom Emperor of Mankind figure. This was purchased from David Toys, and they shot it out to me as soon as possible. So let's jump over to the review stand. Let's go. Alright guys, we are over at the review stand. I am super excited for the Abaddon the Despoiler, the Black Legion, the successor to Horus, the Warmaster. So I am dying to open this up and see exactly what we're looking at. I have high hopes for this figure. I love the Horus Heresy Abaddon figure that came out previously. I guess it's about a year and a half now, but that figure was awesome. I'm a huge fan of the Black Legion, fan of Horus, the Sons of Horus, and the Betrayer Horus for the Horus Heresy. So this is going to be awesome. Again, what's interesting about this figure is these boxes, usually when we're getting something like this and a figure of this size, usually this is a Primarch sized figure. Now Abaddon is sort of with his sacrificial iron halo of sorts on the top, but he's actually not. When we saw some pictures of him previously compared to like Guilliman and Guilliman 40k version, essentially really the first Primarch that came out for JOYTOY, they looked very similar in size. But in comparison, when you're looking, and we'll do a comparison between Guilliman and him later, he's actually not that big. So what's interesting is here is we have this box with Abaddon, but Abaddon is actually not as large as a Primarch. The only other figure that I can think of that comes to mind that was not a Primarch, that was in this size of a box or the specialty size, was Valdor, Constantine Valdor of the Custodes. But he is the size of a Primarch. So this will be interesting. So let's see what we've got. Obviously the box, right? And then we can see on the back, we can see his awesome, amazing sword Drach'nyen, and his armor, as well as his sacrificial iron halo that's sticking out the back. We can see some of the other stuff that he comes with. So, all right, I already opened this up, so we're ready to roll. So it's not going to be any problem. I'm not going to need my zombie tools knife today. So let's see exactly what we're getting with Abaddon. And this one was one of my more anticipated figures once I started finding out more about the lore of Warhammer 40k. So again, we can see the box set. All the time JOYTOY always has these set up and boxed nicely. So we got the nice filler that we're pulling off and the packaging on top of him. And right out of the box, we can see, and bringing it a little bit closer, how impressive this figure is. And he looks amazing. We can see the claw of Horus, and we can see obviously his sacrificial rack up on the top. We got a Blood Angel head or helm in there. We got a Space Marine here. We got some sort of Inquisitor with psychic power that had his Inquisition symbol imprinted on his skull. So let's get Abaddon out of here. Let's take a look at him. And he feels very, very solid. No problems that I can tell right away that he is any kind of a loose figure whatsoever. So let's move this to the side. We'll take some of his accessories out, especially his sword Drach'nyen, in a little bit. But overall, the figure looks amazing. Bring it down a little bit. Bring it in. He is sort of large. It's really that rack behind his Terminator armor that really gives him that sense of height that he has. He's still a big figure, but what's cool is he's not going to be bigger than the Horus Heresy version of the figure, and we'll do a comparison later as well, but he's not that much bigger. I mean, we're gonna have a larger Terminator armor that he's wearing, but it's still very similar size. So he didn't just magically get a Primaris upgrade or grow because the Chaos gods decided to give him some extra height. So, but very cool across the board. The figure looks absolutely great. We can see some highlights, some blue highlights on this black plastic that's very malleable. We see this all the time with all the JOYTOY figures. We don't have any soft goods yet with the figures, which I'm fine with. Again, you can go to Max Bird, pick up some of the soft goods there. I am really looking forward to it. I'm going to pick up the soft goods for Abaddon when they have it over at Max Bird available. So very cool. And we can see the Talon of Horus looking absolutely amazing, dude. The paint job on this is great. We don't get a lot of different I would say washes on this figure. There is some when we're looking at the legs. We can see the scar on his armor that has a little bit of a different color wash on there. We see again, we're talking about the tabard, has some different color highlights on that as well, and also on the leg here as well. We can see the damage and some different paint being applied there. So his armor looks great, very obviously Black Legion and Chaos inspired, and he's got this little head on a chain. I don't know who this is to signify. I'm guessing this is another Space Marine. Is that Sisman? I don't think so. But again, his bracer looks cool. I have Horus on here with no color on it. We go to the back of him. We can see this is starting to come off. We'll take this off for now. This is the pelt of the Luna Wolves that is sitting on his back, which is what the Black Legion or the Sons of Horus was before they became that originally. And then we're going to see, just like on the front of that tabard, we can also see the highlighted light blue for this black malleable plastic that's on here. And then on the other side of the cloak, it's this maroonish red. And then again, we're getting some highlights of black, a little bit of, I want to say that's almost like a grayish color that's in there. The torn look on this looks absolutely great. And then as we're moving across the figure up onto his, was that right? Was that left shoulder? We can see there's some issues that some of the collectors have, and I think JOYTOY even said that they accidentally painted this incorrectly. So from what I'm understanding, this is not supposed to be this color. It's supposed to essentially be like a glowing type of chaos symbol here, but they painted it, I think, too red or something. But it looks fine to me. Again, I'm not a huge lore buff on an Abaddon, but it looks completely fine, and I'm sure that the lore buffs probably have an issue with it, which is completely fine by me. And we got the two spikes here, which are actually quite sharp, and this is going to hold that Luna Wolf pelt into here, and it's going to be sticking on the back of here. One thing I'll note about this, it seems like it's a little bit loose. If we're moving the shoulders around, it's definitely going to fall off, it looks like. But if you're just going to have the figure standing there, it looks like it's not going to be too much of an issue. So as we go up the shoulder, we can go up the the sacrificial rack, and we can see the Eye of Horus symbol. And then as we're moving around, we're going to get a human skull. We get, I think that's a Blood Angel's helm. That sucks. We get the Blood Angel helm that we've seen many times in Abaddon. We get a human skull. We get the Inquisitor or Inquisition head, the skull there that we mentioned before. We get a Tyranid skull, and we get a Space Marine skull. So anybody in the comments, any specifically, if they know about what of these skulls signify or who they signify from a character's perspective that Abaddon wiped out, I'd be appreciative of that information. You can let me know. But then as we move over to the other side, obviously we have the huge Eye of Horus on his right shoulder. Was that right? Yep. And then we're getting the Talon of Horus. This thing looks absolutely amazing. One thing I will notice on the shoulders, he does have the extra ball joint shoulders here on him, but the ball joint doesn't move as much as some of the other figures, so it's kind of stuck in this one position. At least mine is. Maybe some others aren't. It's not that big of a deal, but again, the thing that I like about having the bowl-jointed shoulders here is, as you're getting him into any different configuration or stance, you can see that the shoulder will be able to suck in, and so it will cover that gap that you're making when you're doing any kind of articulation or styling. It seems like it's fine here, but it's a little bit weird. We can see the continuation of the pipes across his chest, a nice skull symbol in the front here, and then around the sides we get 2 additional pipes that are going to his Talon of Horus, and then Talon of Horus. Absolutely amazing, dude. Looks absolutely awesome. Again, maybe not as ostentatious as Horus's one, but this looks awesome. And the other thing that's hysterical is I think these are tracer rounds, unless they're chaos infused rounds, and that's why the red tips of them signify that. But in military sense, these would be tracer rounds. So every couple of rounds we have a tracer round. Maybe he has chaos infused tracer rounds and they do some special stuff. So we get the twin bolter on his wrist for the Claw of Horus, as well as the 2 pipes that are going. And one thing that's really cool with these pipes that are attached here, they do not hinder the articulation whatsoever. There's enough feed on here, and even on the other side, there's enough feed. They're not going to hinder the articulation on him. So moving from the Talon of Horus, which looks absolutely awesome. Actually, we'll spend a little more time on this. We can see that this is individually articulated. Each one of the digits has 2 articulation points, one at the main finger and one at the middle portion of the finger. Mine are a little bit tight, so you just have to tighten them or untighten them up to get them to work, and then we can get him into a pointing stance. So he's pointing at you with the glove. Very cool. But he can get into some different configurations as well. Really good articulation on this claw, and the details on this, and bring this in a little bit closer so you can see, looks really, really good. The claw looks absolutely great. They did an unbelievably great job on this claw, just like they did with the Talon of Horus on Horus himself, which we'll get Horus in here in a little while. We'll even compare the 2 claws, but this looks absolutely great. Love the bolter belt rounds just hanging out the side of this as well. So very, very cool. And there's enough weightiness to this claw. It definitely feels like it's not just hanging out there on the figure. So and again, moving down the sides, we can see the side of the leg armor. We got some armor plating here. Again, a little bit more damage scuffed in on his legs. I would assume it would have a lot more damage being as old as it is. And on the back here, we can see the armor as well. Bring this back out. But very cool. He passes the, let's hold him by one leg and see. He passes the one-legged test. He's not floppy and he's not loose. He does have a lot of weight, especially this piece here has a lot of weight to it. So if we're holding it just like this, he's going to bend down, but it's not terrible. One-legged, he's going to flop a little bit, but these are not floppy joints. This is not like we're seeing when we got the Horus Heresy first-time figures, and a lot of them had very loose joints. That's not what Abaddon is here. He's not a loose figure whatsoever. He is he's quite beefy. And then on his belt we get the Eye of Horus as well as the insignia of Chaos. And then on the back here we get a sort of oh, I guess this is going, so this is going to his Talon of Horus. So I'm guessing this is some sort of extra power that's going to. We also get some damage on the pipes that are going to the claw. Pretty cool. And then again, he's wearing custom Terminator armor, so we can see the overlapping overhead of his Terminator armor, looking great. And we get this other skull like we mentioned before. But he looks absolutely great. Feels awesome. A couple of quick things about the figure also that I noticed. His, bring this in a little bit so you guys can see. His head, and this is the first time I've seen this on a figure, his top knot for his head is actually on a ball joint. And this is needed because of how the head is situated in here. We can see this overhanging Terminator armor piece, and because of that, he's got obviously the pipes also in here, reminiscent of the Horus figure that we also got before. So you're not going to be able to swap his head out if you want to swap a head from like WOG Toys or Toyverse or get a custom head for him. You're going to need a mask, which we've gotten with Horus before, or I've gotten with Angron for the alternate mask. So that's what you're going to need there. But this, going back to the ball joint for the hair or the top knot, it needs to be articulated, because when it's situated in here, he doesn't have much room to move. So you need the hair to be able to move a little bit front ways, because if not, he's constantly going to be in a very, it's still weird in some instances, like he's always moving his neck a little bit forward, as you can see from the top down, where it's actually kind of running up against the top of that portion of the Terminator armor. But it's not a big deal, to be honest with you. Now, one of the things that he comes with is he doesn't come with a mask per se that goes over his whole face, but he does come with a rebreather mask essentially. And so we're going to throw that on here right now. So take off his top knot, and then we're going to push his head back as far as it possibly can go. And then we're going to stick his mask, and this mask looks pretty cool. This is how I'm going to have Abaddon situated until either WOG Toys or Toyverse comes out with a helm specifically for, or a mask for Abaddon, because when I get my other Abaddon Horus Heresy figure in here, you're going to see why well, if you know any of my reviews or you know me, you know I want all of my Space Marines, whether they're Chaos or they're Space Marines Loyalists, I want them to be to have masks or helms on. So but he looks cool. I like this. I actually don't mind it without the top knot. Looks pretty cool. Even though I am bold adverse for my figures, it looks actually pretty cool with this rebreather mask on him for it. And then we're just going to stick the top knot back into his head. The top knot also has a specific spot. It's set up where it's shaped specifically so it can fit into a particular gap way on his head. So very cool. I think this looks awesome, dude. So let me bring the camera out and we can see fully, but the mask looks great. I think the rebreather mask looks really good on Abaddon, and this is how I'm going to have him situated in my collection. So here he is in all of his glory. Great figure so far. I really love him. Again, I got this from David's Toys, and I was actually supposed to get it a bit earlier, but unfortunately the shipping out of China with the Chinese New Year, I wound up getting this much later than I thought. But we're going to go to the next item, and this is very special. This is Drach'nyen. This is the Demon Sword of Abaddon, and they absolutely killed it. This is the best looking accessory sword that I've ever seen JOYTOY do. This is absolutely awesome. This is how I want my Nemesis Force Blades to be painted all the time. Like this two-tone, or it's almost three-tone type of light blue. It looks like an energy blue on here. And then we can see what's absolutely crazy is this is obviously not an actual sword in lore. It's a demon manifested into this form of a blade. And a little bit for what Drach'nyen is essentially he was the first murder, or he was manifested from the first murder of humans. So that's the lore kind of behind it. He's also one of the few beings that fought the Emperor. He manifested in the War in the Webway, and he actually hurt the Emperor of mankind in the Webway, and then the Emperor just kind of like banished him away from him, and yeah, so that's what wound up happening with him. But this looks absolutely awesome. You can see the demon face. Looks dude, this thing looks absolutely so cool. What's crazy is this is so sharp. So we're going back to really sharp JOYTOY parts for the figures, and Drach'nyen is amazingly sharp, especially on his handle. So it looks like a two-handed blade essentially, but it's not, because these spikes down here, you can really only hold it by the top of the hilt. Anything below that, Abaddon is hurting his hand. So And the fact that Abaddon can even wield this is insane. And this is the power level of a greater demon. It's kind of like a give and take relationship with Abaddon. It's a mutual friendship between baddies. So very cool. But this thing looks absolutely insane, dude. Absolutely amazing. You can see from the sides, even the spikes here are painted in with that light blue and white color, so it looks like it's glowing. We get a tiny bit of overpaint on some of the spots here. Little tiny bit. We can see a little bit of extra blue paint. But this looks absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. I think that this sword, what they did for Drach'nyen, is absolutely amazing. I love the way that it looks. This is my previously favorite accessory sword that had come out by JOYTOY was Castellan Crow's Black Blade. But this thing blows it away. Blows it away, dude. This thing is insanely good. I usually buy like extra weapons, and I know that WOG Toys and Toyverse are definitely going to have a version of this if they don't have it already, but I don't have any need for that, dude. This looks insane. Absolutely insane, dude. 100%. Just total badass, dude. They totally killed it with this sword. So alright, so here's Drach'nyen for Abaddon. And one of the other things, and we'll throw the pelt here for now, we'll throw that back on. He also comes with two other hands for his, non-Claw of Horus hand. So we get a pistol grip hand, and we get a standard fist hand. Now he already has a gripping hand on here, so we can throw Drach'nyen in his hand and be very careful about not putting the spiky portion of the hilt in his hand, so that Abaddon is not taking any extra damage. Or am I taking any extra damage? Because this thing is painful, dude. These are really spikes. So we're going back to the days of JOYTOY making very spiky, sharp parts. So, dude, he looks absolutely amazing, dude. Absolutely amazing. I've been looking forward to this figure when they officially announced him months ago, but having him in hand, dude. And I love the Black Legion. They're definitely my favorite Traitor Legion, Sons of Horus, and then Black Legion later on. He looks absolutely amazing, dude. Absolutely amazing. Everything about this figure is awesome. Articulation is solid, especially for a figure that is in Terminator armor and has this massive Claw of Horus. So very cool. And we're going to throw the pelt of the Luna Wolves on here. Again, it's going to just go on to these two portions here. There's two spikes here, and then there's going to be the one huge spike on the back of his sacrificial Iron Halo, in a way. So he looks absolutely amazing, dude. Absolutely great. Alright, so we're going to get to a couple of comparisons here. So now we're going to take a look at the 30K version of Abaddon. Again, I have a custom WOG Toys armored helm on here. Actually, this is the second one that I've had. The first one, I fell and the top knot broke, and then WOG Toys came out with another updated version, and so I picked this up. But again, we can see his lightning claw on here as well. Previously, right, we can see the power. Actually, he has two pipes as well going on to this. And then one of the good things about this figure, if we're looking at this size-wise, it's very similar to the size of what Abaddon is in his 40K form. So it's not like I was saying before, where all of a sudden he got just a huge glow up in size when he got 10,000 years older. So the chaos gods didn't give him some extra height. But here's a good size comparison. Again, the Praetor of the Justarian Terminators, great figure. Again, we also get the pelt of the Luna Wolves as well on here, but this looks awesome. Great figure and great size comparison. Another Terminator armor figure. Alright, we're not going to do all the Justarian Terminators. We're just going to do one of my favorite, who has the lightning claws on. So this is the Black Legion Champion. Again, awesome looking figure. Good comparison, good size. I have no problem with the size here on this figure. Makes sense. Only seems fitting that we're going to get a intercessor for the Blood Angels on here, especially considering he's got his helms, his buddy's helm, on his sacrificial rack above Abaddon. But we can see this is a version 3 intercessor, and we can see the difference in size between Abaddon and the intercessor for the Blood Angels. So definitely a lot bigger than what the Blood Angel intercessor is here. So alright, so now we got Horus, and again, this one has the custom mask that I purchased from JOYTOY. Again, this is going to fit directly on the front of his face because Horus has all those pipes. We can see the huge lunar wolf pelt on him, as well as some of the colors of the Sons of Horus, that turquoise type of color that's on here. He looks absolutely awesome. This is one of the best made JOYTOY figures they've made, period. So this is the weapon that Abaddon here inherited from his Primarch Warmaster. And so if we take a comparison, Horus is definitely a bit bigger than the one that's on Abaddon, and you can see the huge bullet belts, or the bolter belts, that are attached to this as well. And then the spike that is sitting here is also on this side, is much bigger than the ivory spike that is on the bottom of the claw. But again, same articulation between the two. Dude, this is such a great figure. Again, I can't tell you guys enough, if you do not have this Horus figure in your collection, you have to get it. Great comparison between the current Black Legion Warmaster and the Warmaster who started the Civil War. So alright, so we got Big G here of the Ultramarines, and again, you can see the size comparison between the two. Abaddon isn't a taller character or a taller figure in this instance than Guilliman. It's really that top knot that's giving the illusion of height rather, as well as the top of the Terminator arch over the top of his head, and also obviously that huge piece, the sacrificial rack that's sitting on the top of his head, over the top of his head. So that's really where he's getting the height from. But definitely Guilliman is a taller character or figure here in this instance, and it's really cool seeing the differences between the Sword of the Emperor and Drach'nyen. Very cool, dude. Custom Emperor of Mankind JOYTOY figure. Really good size comparison. This is the largest figure that I have in my collection outside of Angron, Demon Primarch Angron, who's not going to be a part of this review because I can't get him on this review table to have him be a part of this. But again, this is a nice comparison between the 40k Abaddon and the Emperor of Mankind. So now we got the Hellbrute of the Black Legion, kind of the lost figure here in the JOYTOY Warhammer 40k line, because we have not gotten this model reused in any form for any of the other Chaos Legions, World Eaters. Well, we don't really have that many, but again, here's Abaddon, and here's his buddy, his Hellbrute. Good size comparison between Hellbrute and Abaddon. Alright, final thoughts here on Abaddon the Despoiler. Great figure, I'm super happy with it. I am unbelievably impressed with the work that JOYTOY did on Drach'nyen here. Absolutely amazing. All the touches of detail. I love the actual paint job. They blew it out of the water. We saw this when he was first revealed, and he looks absolutely awesome. Very reminiscent of that statue from Weta. That statue looks absolutely insane. I'm very tempted to pick that up. If you haven't seen that Abaddon statue, you are missing out. Here's a picture of it now. But unbelievable. I love his Talon of Horus. If I had to give this figure a rating, I would say this is a 9, at least a 9 out of 10. A little bit of an issue with the shoulders not being able to articulate kind of what we're used to with some of the other figures, being that they're also on a ball joint. It's kind of weird that they don't move in the same way. Also, this Luna Wolf pelt is a bit of a pain in the butt because it kind of does fall off a bit. I wish that they had put a little bit of a hook on each one of these side of these spikes where it sits on, but that's really me nitpicking, to be honest with you. I think this is an absolutely awesome figure and a great addition to my collection and your collection as well. I picked this up from David's Toys. You guys can see in the description we have a link for an affiliate link, as well as a code for a discount to get 12% off from David's Toys for any purchase, and they have the fastest shipping of any of the vendors that you can purchase from. So very cool. I am very happy to get this figure, so thank you, David Toys. I purchased this figure, so this is not from them free, but I did purchase this and they got it out to me as fast as they could. So thank you so much, David Toys. Again, I think this is an awesome figure. I'm very happy to have it as part of my collection. Alright guys, if you like this content, please like and subscribe. Alright guys, I'm Wraith, I'm out. Later guys.